In the previous talk, I talked about materialism and a negative attraction to wealth, where you run away from money and you pretend you're spiritual. But in truth, you're not spiritual because you're still obsessed by money, or by sex, or by anything else in the world of form. I made the point that running towards money is the same as running away from money, because in both the cases you're obsessed by money. And here you can replace money with sex, with power, or with anything else in the world of form, in this temporary world that does not last. Today, I would like to go one step ahead and show you that not only are we not supposed, or we shouldn't run away from the world of form, but that we should embrace our goal as co-creators in the world. The world that we create, that we see around us. Some people say God created it. Some say it just came into existence. But that God is responsible for it. Non-believers say that there is no God. The world just comes into existence. I've said that the world that we see has been created by us. We project our own thoughts onto the world, and we create the world that we see. If we think that the world is a cruel place, an unfair place, then the world will become a cruel and unfair place for us. Not for everyone, just for us. If we think that the world is a loving and kind place, then the world will become a kind and loving place for us. So in a way, we create the world that we see. That's why saying, like many people do, why does God create so much suffering if God is so loving? The answer to that is, God does not create suffering, we create suffering. The world that we see around us is created by us, and we are responsible for the suffering, not some God. We create the suffering, and so we can fix it as well. Now, this does not mean that God is completely passive or so far away. I've said that God is not a micromanager. God does not control every single aspect of our life. And by the way, if the word God offends you, you can replace it by spirit or consciousness. So this consciousness does not create the world. The world is created by us. But we are a part of the same consciousness, the same God, the same divine spirit. And so when we miscreate, when we create misery, when we create pain, when we create suffering, we are misusing the powers that the divine consciousness has given us. The powers of creation come not from us, but from the divine mind, from something beyond ourselves. You can call it God, spirit, anything. The point I'm trying to make here is, the world of form is not something evil, not something that is designed to stop us from materialism. but it is something we created ourselves. And if the world of form gives us misery, it is because we created it that way. And the correct solution is not to run away from the world of form, but to create properly, to create beautiful things, to create things that make us happy and make other people happy, that inspire us. And that is the correct use of the God-given power we have for creation. We all have this power given to us by God that we can create in this world. And we can use it in one of three ways. We can use it to create misery for ourselves and for others. We can use it to manifest stuff, which is what the books like The Secret teach us. The so-called secret is based on the law of attraction that says we can attract anything we want just by thinking or wishing for it. That is also a way, in a way, abusing the divine consciousness power of creating. Because while it is true we can manifest anything we want, wealth, cars, partners, the fact is that when we manifest according to the ego, what we think the ego wants, it always leads to misery. And so this is both the first ways. We create our own suffering, or we try to manifest happiness by either working insane hours to make a lot of money, or by using so-called law of attraction techniques to manifest money. But all of these techniques lead to suffering in the end, because we are not creating what we actually need. We don't need more money or more cars. We need true happiness. We need the inner joy that comes from the spirit. But here is the thing. Once you have found this inner peace, this inner joy, then you can still create. You don't need to run to some forest, or you don't need to leave your body and, merge one with the nirvana or anything like that. You can continue working in the world. You can become a teacher of God, as the Course in Miracles teaches. And you can co-create with God. What does that mean? Until now, when we create anything in the material world, we create out of the need of the ego, or we create with the needs of the body to stay alive, food, money, a house. Once we have the basic needs of the body, the ego takes over, wants us a bigger house, a sexier wife, bigger car, better job. And ultimately all these things lead to misery. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can create with God. We can create beautiful things, which can be beautiful poetry, beautiful music, beautiful books. We can give beautiful lectures, which is a form of creation. This talk that I'm giving you is a form of creation. I'm creating something in the material world that will help you or help others. And you can do the same. It doesn't have to be anything that's spiritual. You can create a computer program that is spiritual because it helps people manage their lives better. You can create a car that is easier to drive and uses less fuel. That is helping people, helping the environment. The point is that you do not have to run away from the world of materialism. You can embrace it. With the key difference that you're not creating now to satisfy your ego. You're creating one with the divine consciousness. The divine consciousness works through you. It works through your body to create beautiful things the world needs. And the thing is, you don't know what the world needs. You have no idea. Take the computers. Computers have made our lives so easier. They've made our lives simpler, in some ways complex, but in some ways simple. Computers weren't created by some yogi sitting in a mountain. They were created during World War II to break encryption codes used by the Germans. So the point I'm trying to make is the ego doesn't know what will help the world. If you ask the ego, it will say, oh, let us plant more trees. Let us save the puppies from drowning. Because it makes the ego feel good. Oh, look at me, I'm so spiritual. I saved little puppies from drowning. But the ego doesn't know what will make the world a better place. So during World War II, you couldn't have guessed that this big machine that was as big as a whole, factory and took millions of volts of electricity to run. Nobody could have predicted that this machine would one day be used for good things. Computers are used, maybe they were created for war, but they're used nowadays for many things, including for peace. You can have internet websites that run by charities that teach you, they show you good things, that teach you how you can help others. Sure, you've got bad things as well. But the computer has made our life a lot better compared to what it was 100 years ago. The computer, the internet. So we, the ego, couldn't have known about this thing during World War II. During World War II, if you said to somebody, how can you help the world? They would not have said, make a computer that can break Nazi codes, German codes. They would have told you to, help the people, stop the war, bring peace. The point is that I'm trying to make is we don't know as human beings, as the ego limited to a body. We don't know what is good for the world, what is good for the environment. But there is a part of us that is connected to the divine consciousness, the divine mind, and that does know what is good for the world. So we can create stuff in the material world. It doesn't have to be spiritual stuff. It doesn't have to be books on yoga or meditation. You can continue doing whatever you're doing, making cars or making software or making widgets, whatever you do. And you can still be spiritual if you're connected to the divine source within you. Many famous artists, they say that when they create beautiful art, it's either books or music or poetry. It is not them doing the creative stuff. It is something that comes into them and takes over their body and does the creation. I think, who was it? Was it Beethoven or Mozart? One of them was completely deaf when they wrote their most famous musical piece. So they were completely deaf and they still composed such beautiful music. How can that be possible? It is possible because they let something bigger than themselves, something immense than themselves, something vaster than themselves to work through them and create through them. And that is the definition of, when the divine consciousness, the divine mind creates something, it is beautiful and it lasts for years and years and centuries. Because we as humans know that it was created by something beautiful, something bigger than us. If you talk to famous writers, one of my favorite writers is Dean Wesley Smith and also Stephen King. And both of them, they never plot anything out. They just sit on their desk and they start typing. They never think about what they're going to write. And Dean Wesley Smith actually teaches writing. He's a teacher of advanced authors. He teaches advanced writers. And one of the things he repeatedly says is that if you want to become a great writer, not a good writer, not just a money-making writer, but a great one who's a bestseller, who will be read for 100 years from now, you have to get out of the way and let the subconscious, your inner self, do the work. He says that if you try to write consciously, I'm going to write this book to impress people, it'll come out to be a horrible book. But if you, stop thinking about writing and just write, let something flow through you, then you will write a much better book. Because something higher than yourself, something bigger than yourself will take over and create through you. Yeah. So many of the people like Dean Wesley Smith, they're not spiritual. At least they don't write about spirituality. Maybe they are spiritual in their personal life, but they don't express that in their official writing. The fact is, many great writers, many musicians, they say the same thing. Painters. They don't think about what they're going to paint. They just close their eyes and they just let something bigger than themselves flow through them. And that is true creation. You're letting the divine flow through you. So you're creating beauty in the world of form. Now your traditional spiritual types will say, oh, the world of form is evil. It is doesn't last. It gets destroyed. Yeah, maybe that's true, but if you look at the writings of Shakespeare, the music of Beethoven, they have lasted for hundreds of years and will last for another 100 years, maybe thousands of years. Beautiful stuff created by the divine consciousness, the divine mind, can last for thousands of years. That is the litmus test. Stuff created by the human mind, by the ego, to impress other people, that doesn't last forever, that lasts for a few years, for a few months. If you look at the famous writers of today, Dickens, Charles Dickens, Mark Twain, in their own time, these writers were considered incompetent. People used to laugh at them because they weren't fashionable at that time. But these writers wrote what they loved. They wrote from their heart. They didn't care what other people thought. And now we're still reading these people. Well, if you go back to the 19th century, 18th, 19th century, the writers who were popular at that time, they have all vanished. Because they were writing to impress the people of the time. They didn't let anything big flow through them. So the world of form is not bad, and there's nothing wrong enjoying the world of form. There is nothing wrong with creating in the world of form. Creating beautiful stuff. Just remember, the definition of beautiful is anything that is created with a divine consciousness. That is created when something bigger is flowing through you, is divine. It can be anything. It can be a book, it can be a novel, it can be a car, it can be a computer program. So our job is not just to run away from the world, to say the world of form is evil. True, we have to realize our true self is beyond form. That we are beyond pain and suffering, and we are something beyond this world of form, something that will never die. That is true. But once you realize it, what then? Do you just leave your body die? Do you commit suicide? We are still living in the world of form, aren't we? We still have to obey the laws of form. And for me, at least, in my own meditation, the inner teacher has told me, this is my guidance, that our jobs while we are in this body is to co-create with God, to increase the beauty of the world, to increase the kindness of the world, to increase the love in the world. And we can do that any way we can. We can do it by being traditional spiritual teachers, or we can continue by doing a normal job, but by being nice people. Each one of us has our own target set by the holy inner teacher. So we have to realize our true self beyond death, beyond form, beyond time. That is true. We have to do that. But even after we have done that, or we are in the process of doing that, in the meantime, we are not to run away from the world and say, oh, material world is bad, money is bad, cars are bad, everything is bad. No, we have to live in the world of form, and we have to obey its laws. But rather than being passive victims of the world, we have to become co-creators with God. We have to create in the world, increase the beauty of the world, increase the joy in the world. We create not to satisfy our ego, or to become famous, or to win awards, or to make $1 million. We create because something inside of us wants to create. Something inside of us wants to come out and increase the beauty of the world. And if we let this inner beauty out, it will counteract the suffering of the world that we have created. It will inspire people. It will help them realize a good spiritual work. Anything creative helps people realize that there is something more to the life than just the body and the mind and death. And that is our job as co-creators. So this is my homework to you. This is my goal to you. What is your role in this world? Why are you here? What are you going to create? How are you going to increase the beauty of the world? This divine world that was created by us with God. Because we are God, isn't it true? We are all God. So we have God's power of creativity. The question is, are you going to create suffering with it, or are you going to create beauty with it? Think about this seriously. What is your role in all this? What are you going to do? You, the listener, the one listening right now. I'm not talking to some random third person. I'm talking to you, whoever you are, male or female, whoever you are listening to this talk right now, this very second. What is your role in all this? I suggest you sit quietly in meditation. 5 minutes, watch your breath, calm your mind down, and then ask the inner teacher, what is my goal? How do I increase the beauty of the world? How do I co-create with God? And you will get an answer. Maybe not that very second, not that very minute. You might get it, but you will eventually get an answer. And it will be a very clear answer. There will be no doubts. It will come from within your heart, within you. It will not be the mind's answer. The mind will speak first and very loudly. Oh, you should write a book and become a millionaire. Or you should write a Hollywood script so you can become famous. Or you should learn the guitar so girls will dig you. That's the mind will scream. Ignore the mind. Keep listening until you get an answer from within the heart. A very silent but strong voice, a loving voice, a kind voice. That will be the voice of your inner teacher. And that voice will tell you how you can increase the beauty of the world. What you can do to make the world of form more loving and kind. And that is what you must do. That is your job in the world. Obviously, you're still going to continue meditating, but you won't meditate for 24 hours a day, will you? You have to live in the world of form. You have to earn a living. You have to go to work. You have to have health insurance or checkups. And while you're doing all this, you must be somehow increasing the beauty of the world. You must be creating with God. How are you creating with God? So I'm going one step beyond my last talk. The last talk, it was all the world of form is not bad. You can enjoy the world of form and still be spiritual. In this one, I want to go one step ahead and say it's not enough to just accept the world of form. You have to increase the beauty of the world of form. Because we are here. We are co-creators with God. We're not some helpless victims here. If there is suffering in the world, it is our job to fix it as well. What are you doing to fix it? How are you co-creating with God? How are you helping reduce the misery in the world? So these are the steps. First step is you accept the material world as it is. You accept that you can live in the material world and still be spiritual. You can have a big car, big house, big money and still be spiritual. That's the first step. The second step is to then go out into the world and take your divinity, take your spiritual experience, take it off the mat, off the meditation mat and into the outer world. In any way you can. Like I said, don't have to be a traditional spiritual guru or anything. In any way you can. You can blog about your experience. You can create a painting. You can write a book. You can do talks like I'm doing now. If you get stuck, ask your inner teacher what your role is, and you will be given a simple, straight answer. So do that now. Tell me, how can you increase the beauty of the world? What are you doing? You're a co-creator with God. What have you done other than just moan and complain? Oh, my life is so bad. What have you done to increase the beauty of the world today? That is my question to you. Think about that. Think about it now. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for listening. If you want a free course on how to contact your inner teacher, your own spiritual guide, the part of the divine who lives inside of you and is guiding your spiritual progress, then please go to my website, thepathtojoy.com. thepath2joy.org. That is thepath2joy.org. Thank you.